I got a bunch of videos to make today, but I'm going to start with an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and it is regarding the nomination for Supreme Court Justice. I'm going to play this clip from Roland Martin's show, News One Now, and then I'm going to make my commentary.
Please go to my iPad. This is the lead story today on Politico.com. Supreme Court. So let's see here. We got some issues here. So let me see if I can plug it back in here. Supreme Court. I'll just read it. Supreme Court. Trump engulfed Capitol Hill. They're talking about what's happening with the Supreme Court. And the thing that jumps out at me is, and I keep saying this. First of all, the story says that by next week, the president likely will appoint a nominee. I don't understand what's taking so long because the window is shrinking when the Senate goes on recess, summer recess in July. I still contend that the president, the smart play is for this president to appoint a black woman, first of all, who's going to be eminently qualified, no doubt. But that puts the Republicans in a no-win situation to have them say, I won't even meet with this woman. Yes. To me, there's nobody else the president can appoint that is going to have sort of that visceral reaction, set up largely white senators. Then you're going to have those white females in the Senate, Kelly Ayotte, others who said, oh, I'm not even going to meet with her. Forget a confirmation or a vote, even meet with her. To me, that's the last thing of you Republicans you want to see.
Strategically, Roland, that makes all the sense in the world. And again, it plays into that narrative that Republicans cannot relate. It plays into that narrative that Republicans are bigoted or racist or whatever the perceptions may be by people of color, communities of color. And so if I was the president, or if I was advising the president, I would indeed say appoint an African-American woman and allow these folks to say we won't meet with her. And so when we get to the general, we're going to play this over and over and over again. Yeah. Strategically, that makes perfect sense.
Ralph?
No, politically, it would be a brilliant move by President Obama. But then I go back to the statement I made earlier. Where is the black community out here, the drum that you keep beating, saying to this president, this is what we want you to do. This is what we want you to do. The same way Jorge Ramos and the moderators last night hammered them for 50 minutes on illegal immigration.
Well, we're seeing it in social media. We are. I mean, if you anything, look, when I get on Facebook or Twitter from the people.
Here's the deal. The black
from you.
Okay, here's the deal. Last week, hold up. Last week on Thursday, a group of black preachers had a conference call to push this whole issue of the Supreme Court. On the call was Dr. Barbara Skinner. And I asked her the question, okay, Barbara, have you and others pressed the president to appoint a black woman? She, for the first time, publicly revealed, which I already knew, but they wouldn't do it publicly, at the Black Women's Roundtable, sent a letter to the president. She's the chair of the Black Women's Roundtable, sent a letter to the president that a meeting with senior advisor Valerie Jarrett on this very issue. Holy hell broke out. All of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, why did she release that information? I asked the question. It was public. I broadcast on my radio show, and all of a sudden, they still won't release the letter. You haven't seen, okay, Cornell Williams Brooks, CEO of the NAACP. He goes to Delta Days and says, need a black woman on the Supreme Court. I've seen no press release. I've texted and called Cornell to come on this show. Nothing. Leadership Conference of Civil Rights. Wade Henderson. I saw him at the White House. Said he wants to come on the show, talk about Supreme Court. We hit him up to come on, declined the invitation. All of these black, I've heard nothing from Reverend Sharpton, National Action Network. I heard him say, hey, it'd be nice to have a black woman on the court, but, you know, we need somebody to qualify. As if a black woman not going to be qualified. And so they are purposely being quiet, and that to me is absolutely nonsensical. Well, you cannot convince the Latinos to be quiet.
Perhaps.
Now, he's 100% on point, and I have said this before. We supposedly have all these black civil rights or social rights organizations that are supposedly out there pushing for our benefit. But when it comes to issues like this, and I mean, this is, for me, is a major issue as far as having a black woman placed on the Supreme Court. And you hear absolutely nothing about this. Because in my opinion, not only is it the right thing to do, you know, period, but it's also the politically correct thing to do as far as placing pressure on the GOP in order to move them, because this will turn into a firestorm if a black woman is nominated and is not even given so much as a meeting with the Judiciary Committee, let alone a vote by the Judiciary Committee. But anyway, there's something that troubles me even more, so let me continue.
Agree with me that while it would be wonderful to have a black woman on the Supreme Court, there are other marginalized groups in this country that could also represent the court, be progressive, and move the court forward.
Now, that is what kills me. This woman, Yolanda Young, has the nerve to say that there are other groups that would be more representative than a black woman on the Supreme Court. I don't understand some of these people. You know, the two Republican guys got it, okay, and the one of the black women that was that's a Democrat, and I apologize, you'll see her name as she comments further, but this woman just doesn't get it. This is a win-win situation as far as nominating a black woman for the Supreme Court. And I'm going to go back to a famous quote: "If not now, when?" You know, we have been waiting for how long now? And I'm just going to say 50 years, but it's probably more like 150 years. But at least the past 50 years, you know, post the civil rights movement period, that a woman should have been nominated and placed on that Supreme Court. Now, granted, the Supreme Court for the past 50 years has been conservative. But remember, after Johnson blew it by not getting a liberal, quote unquote, Supreme Court justice in, and then allowed Nixon to get in there, from that point forward, the Supreme Court has been conservative. And even Bill Clinton, when he got in there and was able to nominate the Supreme Court justices, there was, you know, he didn't do it. So now you got Obama. He's basically at the end of his term. If he doesn't do it, it's just not going to get done. But anyway, let's continue.
Oh, I mean,
hold up. Who?
There are many people, for example.
No. So you telling me that black women who were the drivers of the civil rights movement, black women who birthed the kids in this country, black women who raised the kids that built America, are you telling me that now is not the time for an historic appointment of a black woman to the Supreme Court?
I'm telling you that the time was 100 years ago, 50 years ago, today. Yes, today is the time. But I'm saying to you that the issue is more complicated than that.
No, it's not. It's not that complicated.
It's not the time for identity politics.
So it kills me. Now's not the time for identity politics, and things are more complicated than that. That's bullshit. Nothing can be more simpler than this. It is time. President Obama needs to get up off his ass and do the right thing by the people that actually propelled him into office. We need representation on the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas is not representation. As a matter of fact, if there's one guy that I would love to see removed, it would be Clarence Thomas.
Hold on. If the court is, wait. If the court is not,
there is no if.
Wait a minute. If the court is not time for identity politics, Sonia Sotomayor, the first Supreme Court nominee of the president, was Latino. You don't think Latinos were happy about that? Then you had Elena Kagan.
Of course, but again, though, Barack Obama. I mean, that's not the issue.
I'm speaking of, again, in an election year where you have senators, Republicans, who are saying, we won't even meet with the nominee. There is no other pick you can make politically that will drive your base to the polls, that will also freak Republicans out. And I'm trying to understand, I got two guys who are Republican who get it, but I'm trying to understand how the black woman who's attorney, you don't get put in a system on the Supreme Court. Sure, Michael.
This black woman who's the attorney gets it. I'm sorry to butt in, but Women's History Month, so I'm going to talk. This black woman gets it. Look, it is the fourth, set aside everything else you said, it is the fourth quarter of President Obama's presidency. If he does not do this and give black women their due, who is going to do it.
The same,
and how much longer?
The same black women who voted at a higher rate for this president in 08 and 12 than any group in America, higher than white men, white women, Hispanics, Asian, Native Americans, pick any disenfranchised group you want, but black women voted at a higher rate than anybody else.
Now, they're still voting higher than any other group in the presidential process now. We saw that in South Carolina.
So, Michael, here's the other piece here, Yolanda. This is in answer this. If Obama nominates a sister, you now have the opportunity to say, Secretary Clinton, Senator Sanders, if the Republicans block this nominee, and if you win, will you come back and reappoint this woman? So you now, have you boxed in Republicans, you boxed in Democrats, and now you're sitting there saying, now what y'all gonna do?
Now
Tell me any other pick that will allow you to do that.
But Republicans have no choice but to appoint.
Hold on one second. Tell me any other pick that will allow you to do that.
I will concede your point.
Okay.
Bingo, bingo. Michele Bernard, the woman in the red dress, she got it. But this attorney apparently, it had to be beaten into her before she came to Jesus and recognized exactly what was going on here. And it kills me because she's an attorney, she's an educated woman, and you would think, if you're just going to go just off the top, that she would be all for trying to get a black woman on the Supreme Court. But for whatever reason, and I have no idea what it is, she's unwilling, or was unwilling until Roland got her straight, to see the value of placing a black woman on the Supreme Court and not somebody else.
Political strategy, but that was not my point. My point was that the Supreme Court is a body of 9, and in that body of 9, I feel that the liberal justices on that court do a good job of holding ground on issues that impact African Americans.
And see, it's not a question of holding ground. See, she's defeating herself with her own words. We don't want to hold ground. We need to take additional ground, and a black woman who would be uniquely qualified to take that spot would also have a unique knowledge of the situation that not just black people, okay, but people in general, how the normal everyday person thinks, not the elitists that are basically sitting on that court. Now, that's not to say that she might not be an elitist as well, but if you consider Loretta Lynch and her rise, she came from meager backgrounds, so that she would have a unique perspective. Hopefully, a black woman would also have that same unique perspective as far as, the rights for everybody, but more so including minorities, specifically black people. So this lady, Yolanda Young, she's defeating herself just by opening her mouth. So I don't know if I'd want her for my attorney.
Hold up, but who would be better to truly hold that ground than a black woman who's eminently qualified to be the Supreme Court justice?
Well, how well is Justice Clarence Thomas doing?
Oh my God!
Who nominated Justice Clarence Thomas?
And the president would not nominate Clarence Thomas. Look, did you see before South Carolina, there were commercials on television of like Trayvon Martin's mother and other mothers who have lost their children. If you put a black woman on the Supreme Court, or at least give her the opportunity to have the Senate turn her down and say, we will not meet with you, here's what you get to say to the women that is going to drive women to the polls in droves. If there is a black woman on the Supreme Court, it is the highest law of the land. When it comes to dealing with what is constitutional and unconstitutional, we will not see a Flint, Michigan again. I would love to see a black woman talking to Clarence Thomas.
The president of the United States is a black man, and we saw Flint, Michigan.
Sure, Michael.
And there was federal oversight.
Now I don't know what the hell is wrong with this woman. President Obama had nothing to do with the Flint, Michigan crisis. That was a white man at a Republican governor who basically set all of that in motion by appointing emergency managers who turned around and were just basically chopping everything and trying to go on the cheap, that created that Flint water prices. So how she could even open her mouth and try to throw President Obama in that, it's, you know, in my opinion, I wonder if she's a Republican in sheep's clothing, because she damn sure don't sound like a Democratic woman.
Sure, Michael.
For Republicans, I think it would be foolish strategically. It would be a huge miscalculation if he were to appoint an African-American woman for us to not meet with her. Because what you're seeing now, there's a decrease in turnout on the Democratic side, and there's increased turnout on the Republican side. If he were to appoint an African-American woman and we say we're not meeting with her, I am almost certain you would see a huge increase, a huge spike in turnout on the Democratic side. And that would hurt Republicans.
And the Republicans, right now, they can't afford to go back on their word saying no hearing. That's game, set, match. Yeah. But if you want to get cute and appoint somebody else, you now are removing what is a perfect political scenario. So you get two things: political scenario, and if they do meet with her and have a confirmation, she'll get confirmed, and history will be made. And this brother will be the one saying, "I was right." Coming up.
And this brother right here will be the one saying, "I was right" as well.